The telegram arrived at Frank Sinatra's Beverly Hills home on a gray October morning in 1947. Western Union delivered it personally, the way they did when the message was too important for the regular mail. Frank's hands shook as he read the 10 words that would change everything. Your name appears on industry watch list. Career termination imminent. Anonymous friend. Within 24 hours, Frank's recording contract was suspended. His radio show was canceled. His upcoming film was shelved. The most famous singer in America had become persona non grata in Hollywood, all because someone had whispered the word communist next to his name. But Frank Sinatra didn't get where he was by backing down from fights. What he did next would become the most courageous stand for artistic freedom in entertainment history. And it would prove that sometimes the most important performance happens not on stage, but in defense of the right to perform at all. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. October 15th, 1947. Hollywood, California. RCA Records Building. Frank sat across from his record label executive, Harold Morrison, watching the man who'd made millions from Frank's voice explain why he could no longer afford to work with him. Frank, you have to understand the climate we're in, Morrison said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses nervously. The House Committee on Un-American Activities is investigating communist influence in Hollywood. Anyone with questionable associations is being scrutinized. Frank's jaw tightened. What questionable associations? I sang at a fundraiser for war orphans. I supported civil rights. When did helping people become un-American? Morrison pulled out a manila folder. This is what they're saying about you, Frank. Attendance at left-wing political events. Associations with suspected communist sympathizers. Support for controversial causes. You mean support for treating people equally? Support for workers' rights? I'm just telling you what's in the file, Frank. Right or wrong, the industry is scared. Sponsors are pulling out. Theater chains are refusing bookings. Nobody wants to be associated with anyone on the watch list. Frank had seen this coming. The political climate in America had shifted dramatically since the war ended. The alliance with Soviet Russia was over, replaced by suspicion and fear. Senator Joseph McCarthy was making headlines with his communist hunting. In Hollywood, careers were ending based on rumors and anonymous accusations. But Frank hadn't expected to be a target. His only crime was using his success to support causes he believed in. Civil rights, workers' rights, helping refugees. In the new America, apparently, social consciousness was equivalent to treason. So, what are you saying, Harold? Morrison couldn't meet Frank's eyes. We're suspending your recording contract indefinitely, until this situation clarifies. Frank stood up slowly. 24 hours ago, I was the biggest star in your company. Today, I'm unemployable. Based on what? Rumors? Anonymous accusations? Frank, if you could just make a public statement, distance yourself from certain organizations, maybe testify before the committee about what you know. You want me to name names? Destroy other people's careers to save my own? Morrison's silence was answer enough. Frank walked out of RCA Records knowing his career as he'd known it was over. But he also knew something else. He wasn't going to destroy other people to save himself. The phone in Frank's Beverly Hills home rang constantly for the next week. His agent, his manager, his friends, everyone had the same advice. Cooperate. Give the committee what they wanted. provide names, show patriotic loyalty, and the whole thing would blow over. But Frank's conscience wouldn't let him. He'd grown up in Hoboken, where neighbors protected neighbors, where you didn't betray friends to save yourself, where integrity mattered more than career advancement. The pressure was enormous. Frank's wife, Nancy, was worried about their future, their children's security. The mortgage payments, the staff salaries, the lifestyle they'd built, all of it depended on Frank's ability to perform and record. By November, Frank's situation had become desperate. No record label would sign him. No radio station would play his music. No movie studio would hire him. The man who'd been called the Voice was being systematically silenced. That's when Frank made a decision that would define the rest of his life. On November 20th, 1947, Frank called a press conference at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Reporters from every major newspaper and radio station attended, expecting Frank to announce his cooperation with the House Committee or his retirement from entertainment. Instead, Frank did something that shocked everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," Frank began, standing behind a podium in the hotel's grand ballroom. "I've asked you here today to make a statement about my career, my beliefs, and my future in this country." The room was silent, photographers ready to capture whatever Frank said. "Over the past month, I've been blacklisted from the entertainment industry because someone, somewhere, decided that my political beliefs make me a security risk. I've been told I can end this situation by providing names, by betraying friends, by compromising my principles." Frank paused, looking directly at the reporters. "I'm here to tell you that I will not do that. I will not betray friends. I will not compromise my beliefs, and I will not be silenced by fear." The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, but Frank held up his hand. "I believe in America. I believe in democracy. I believe in the Constitution that guarantees freedom of speech and freedom of association. If those freedoms don't apply when they're inconvenient, then they don't mean anything at all." Frank stepped away from the podium and walked to a piano that had been set up in the corner of the ballroom. "I have one more thing to say, but I'd rather sing it." Frank sat at the piano and began playing a song he'd never performed publicly before, a song that would become his signature, his anthem, his declaration of independence. "And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain." As Frank sang "My Way," the press conference became something unprecedented, a live performance of artistic defiance. Frank wasn't just singing a song. He was declaring that no committee, no blacklist, no threat to his career would make him compromise who he was. "My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain." The lyrics took on new meaning in that ballroom. Frank was stating his case, not to the House Committee, but to the American people. He was choosing principle over profit, integrity over security. "I did it my way." When Frank finished, the ballroom was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, applause began. Not from the reporters, but from the hotel staff who'd gathered to listen. The bellhops, the waiters, the cleaning ladies, working people who understood what it meant to stand up to powerful people who wanted to control your life. The next day, newspaper headlines across America read, "Sinatra refuses to name names," and "The Voice chooses conscience over career." The immediate reaction was mixed. Some newspapers praised Frank's courage. Others condemned him as unpatriotic. Radio stations that had already banned his music continued the boycott. Record stores removed his albums from their shelves. But something else happened that nobody expected. Fan mail began pouring into Frank's home. Not hundreds of letters, but thousands. Americans from every walk of life wrote to express their support for an entertainer who'd chosen principle over profit. A steel worker from Pittsburgh wrote, "Mr. Sinatra, I don't know much about politics, but I know courage when I see it. Thank you for showing us that standing up for what's right matters more than money." A teacher from Iowa wrote, "You've given my students the greatest lesson in American values they could ever receive. Democracy means the right to believe what you choose, not what someone tells you to believe." More importantly, other entertainers began to take notice. Some quietly, some publicly, artists across Hollywood started questioning the blacklist system. If Frank Sinatra, one of the biggest stars in America, could be destroyed by rumors and anonymous accusations, nobody was safe. 3 months later, a group of prominent entertainers, led by Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, formed the Committee for the First Amendment, publicly opposing the House Committee's investigations into Hollywood. Frank's stand had inspired others to find their own courage. But Frank's career was still in ruins. The blacklist remained in effect. For 18 months, Frank Sinatra, the man who'd been the biggest recording star in America, couldn't get arrested in Hollywood. That's when an unexpected opportunity arose. Columbia Pictures, run by Harry Cohn, was producing a film called From Here to Eternity. The role of Private Angelo Maggio was perfect for Frank, but Cohn was reluctant to hire a blacklisted actor. Frank took matters into his own hands. He flew to Hawaii at his own expense, found Cohn on the set, and auditioned for the role personally. He didn't ask for his usual salary. He asked for scale, the minimum payment allowed by the actors' union. "Harry," Frank said after his audition, "I'm not asking you to make a political statement. I'm asking you to give me a chance to act. Judge me on my talent, not on rumors about my politics." Cohn was impressed by Frank's performance, but more impressed by his persistence and humility. Against the advice of his executives, Cohn cast Frank in the role. From Here to Eternity became one of the biggest films of 1953. Frank's performance earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. The blacklist that was supposed to end his career instead led to his transformation from singer to serious actor. But Frank's real victory wasn't the Oscar. It was the precedent he'd set. By refusing to compromise his principles, by choosing courage over convenience, Frank had proven that artistic integrity could survive political persecution. The blacklist system gradually crumbled throughout the 1950s, partly because of the courage shown by entertainers like Frank Sinatra, who refused to participate in the destruction of their colleagues' careers. In 1954, journalist Edward R. Murrow's television documentary exposed Senator McCarthy's tactics, effectively ending the communist witch hunt. Many of the entertainers who'd been blacklisted were quietly rehabilitated, their careers restored. Frank never publicly discussed the specific details of his blacklist experience. But in a 1965 interview, he said, "There are moments in every person's life when they have to choose between what's easy and what's right. I chose what was right. I'd make the same choice again." By 1960, Frank Sinatra was bigger than ever, recording, performing, acting, and producing. He'd survived career destruction by refusing to destroy others. He'd preserved his integrity by refusing to compromise his principles. In 1975, when the House Un-American Activities Committee was finally disbanded, Frank was asked to comment on the end of an era that had nearly destroyed him. Frank's response was simple. America is strongest when Americans are free to believe, to speak, to create without fear. That's worth fighting for. That's worth risking everything for. Today, My Way remains one of the most beloved songs in American popular music. But for those who know the story, it's more than entertainment. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important performance is the one you give for your own conscience. Frank Sinatra proved that artistic freedom isn't something that's given to entertainers by politicians or executives. It's something that artists must claim for themselves, defend for themselves, and sometimes sacrifice everything to preserve. The hotel ballroom where Frank made his stand is gone now, replaced by a modern office building. But the precedent he set, that entertainers have the right to their political beliefs, that careers shouldn't be destroyed by anonymous accusations, that courage matters more than career advancement, that precedent endures. If this story moved you, subscribe and hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to know that standing up for what you believe in is never wrong, even when it costs you everything. Sometimes the most important song you'll ever sing is the one you sing for freedom itself. Have you ever had to choose between what was easy and what was right? Let us know in the comments how you found the courage to do what you knew was correct, even when it wasn't convenient.